Welcome back. We are now going to discuss all about HTML injection. So HTML injection is similar to the cross-site scripting attack which you learned about in the previous tutorial. However, with the cross-site scripting attack, you're injecting JavaScript, and with the HTML injection attack, you're injecting HTML. So HTML injection vulnerabilities can sometimes be easily missed. An example of this is with form fields in a web form. Let's imagine you had a form that asked you to update your profile. Now with HTML injection, you could inject some HTML so that those form fields would be disabled. Not the most serious attack, but it depends on the circumstances it is used in, and it could be dangerous in the correct circumstances. So let's get to it, and I'll show you how to perform HTML injection and protect against it. Hello and welcome back. So I've created a HTML injection vulnerability back in my website I'm currently developing. I've deliberately created a vulnerability to show you guys how this HTML injection attack works. So I'm just going to log in and profile settings. Now the field that I've made vulnerable is the first name, okay, which is Daniel. So that's what the current value is. So I want to show you what happens if I put a quote in here. Just a quote on its own, and I press update. That's strange. Nothing happened. But no, it did. Let's inspect the element and see what we see. This will show us the HTML on the website. So look at this. This is strange, right? That's not normal, surely. Now what's happened is because we put a quote in here, what's happened is it's closed our value. Because let me show you the code, right? Here basically what we do is we pass in the user's first name to the field, so that's the default value, right? And obviously if they change their first name, the user first name will be different, so it'll display the new value, right? But what's happening is because the first name is a quote, because we just changed to a quote, it's doing this. So what happens is it closes our value statement, and then we just have a random quote here doing nothing. So that's why when we enter a quote, it shows us as no quotes at all. So that's an interesting type of attack, because you can do things like this. Watch this. Let's say I've logged into my mate's account and I want to, make it so he can't change his name anymore. I could just do this. So quote disabled space, and disabled in HTML basically disables fields, so you can't enter anything in them. So we press update. Okay, before I can show you that, I just need to put the code back in so that it outputs to the browser, because I forgot to do that, right? Okay, cool. So now if we go double quote disabled and space, then if we press, we need to do a space because it appends another quote, right, at the end. So we need a space there. So we press update. We can see our first name's disabled. We can actually no longer click it or change it. So you can see that this sort of attack is could be potentially dangerous in certain scenarios, although it's not the most serious attack we've shown on our list. It could be used to mess your friends around or something. So obviously for us to change this again, we'll need to manually do that, remove disabled, so we can change it again. And if we press update, there we are. So that's fine. So how do you protect against this attack? Well, let me show you first by writing a PHP function that prevents this attack. So it's called HTML entities. If I spelled that right. No, I haven't. It's this one, right? So we do HTML entities, and then if we refresh here now, and then we were to try that attack once more, we can see it prints what we typed, so it's correct. And if we just do a single quote now, we can see that a single quote, it no longer shows nothing because this attack is no longer possible. And let me show you what that function does, because this HTML entities function in PHP, Java has its own equivalents, by the way, in Apache library, I think. So let's see what it says here. HTML entities convert all applicable characters to HTML entities. So let me explain that. If we inspect our field and we just take a look here, we'll need to re-inspect that. Inspect element. Okay, good. Now if we press edit as HTML, you'll see this and QUOT semicolon. So basically, in HTML, you have these words that represent characters. So, for example, and copy semicolon is the copyright symbol, and quotes are and QUOT QUOT semicolon, right? So our quote is displayed as a quote correctly. But this HTML entities function will take the quote and it'll change it to ampersand. Let me show you it again. It'll change it to ampersand QUOT semicolon. So then the browser realizes that we aren't closing the value field here because this is we want to represent a quote. So then the browser will take this and it'll replace it with a quote, not actually closing our value attribute. So it's built into browsers. These are it's very common. It supports all browsers, and yeah. So essentially, we store it as they provide it, but then here, just before we put it in the value, we call HTML entities, which ensures that it replaces quotes and other characters that might affect the input. It replaces them with their browser equivalents, represented by those little tag names. So that is how you patch the HTML injection attack. It works fairly well. Check for a HTML entities equivalent for your web programming language that you're using. Essentially, it just needs to replace those sensitive characters with the browser tags like and QUOT semicolon, stuff like that, and then it protects against this attack. You'll also see I'm using set value here. This is just a function in the framework I'm using which does the same thing basically. We won't get into that as it's off topic. So that's HTML injection, so protect yourself.